Cameron, Director of Remembering for Our Voice Nuestra Voz, as well as the producer of the Black and Brown Get Down. As always, we are honored to have you tapped in. We have a special bonus episode this week that is going to be so life-changing in a lot of different ways. Back in April, Our Voice Nuestra Voz, we took a delegation of black leaders from New Orleans to the San Diego-Tijuana border and just learned about what the black migrant experience there was all about. And so as a result, we're going to have a series of panels throughout the city talking about all the different things that we learned through there, talking about the legal aspect, talking about the art aspect. And this panel that we had to start it off at the New Orleans African American Museum is called Guardians of the Community, the Power of the Black Femme Energy at the Border. And so all of our femme leaders who were on the trip were in attendance at this. Sierra Hart from the Education Trust was not able to make it there physically, but did send in a video talking about her experience and how it was a life-changing experience for her. And so, you know what? We're not going to do no more talking. Let's just go right into the panel, and everybody will introduce themselves, and we'll get right into it. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. My name is Sierra Hart. I currently serve as the External Relations Manager for the Education Trust in Louisiana, and I am so sad that I could not be there with you all tonight, but I'm honored to share space with some incredible women who truly have changed my life in just a short amount of time. As you all know, in April, we joined together to go to the Tijuana border to really be able to learn about the experience of migrants, specifically Black and Brown migrants, as they navigate a very tumultuous journey. For me, I went in with the lens of thinking about my students, those who I know had made a similar journey, and how I could come back home and be able to bring back tools and resources to them. But I was not fully prepared for the spiritual and emotional journey that came as a result of this trip. I believe that without the women who were there to support and uplift and just bring a sense of nurturement, I probably would not have been able to maintain a sense of strength throughout that trip. Women who you are sharing space with tonight specifically created a space of nurturement. They created a space of community, a space of motherhood, and really allowed for us to feel safe in our vulnerability and also in the trauma and grief that we experienced in seeing the conditions that our society has placed the most vulnerable in. Not only that, but being able to see how women were taken care of. It gave me not only a sense of belonging in that space, to know that I had women who were there to support me as I navigated the things that I was learning there, but also the women who are coming to the border, knowing that they could find solace in women who are doing the work, who are there doing the work, who are committed to doing the work. And so I want to give a special shout out to all of you. I'm so again sorry that I could not be there, but Mama Denise, Ty, Moonlight, Mary, Michelle, I just thank you for the love, the sisterhood, the grace, the community that you provided for me. I see you as forever sisters in this work. I see you as forever sisters, period. And I'm excited to continue to think about what this work looks like and how we can provide safety and support and advocacy for those at the border who may not feel that sisterhood, who may not believe that they have it, but knowing that there are women like Sister Jimena who are there doing that work, hopefully can remind them that that is there, and us being able to amplify and support the work that they do. I'm committed to and dedicated to, and I thank you all.
My name is Mary D. Moran. I'm the Executive Director of Our Voice Nuestra Voz.
I'm Reverend Dr. Denise Graves. I'm a spiritual leader and community pastor with Peace Ministry, and we had a great time.
I'm Michelle Seymour. I'm a director at New Orleans Youth Alliance, which is a youth intermediary organization, and I am the new executive director of Project Butterfly New Orleans. Yes, executive teams. And yes, and it's a program, a rites of passage program for girls and non-binary young people of African descent.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, you got a mic. Excuse me.
Okay. Moonlight, they, them, she, her. Oh, I got the squeaky mic. Yeah, I'm a healer in the community, and I went on a trip as a part of Breakout, which is the LGBTQ Black and brown organization specifically geared to Black and brown trans folks.
Ashe, big Ashe. Oh, yes. I love direction. Thank you, Brother Nate. Brother Nate is actually our director of remembering at the organization. I'll just shout out our team, our community organizer, Tomek, director of partnerships, the illustrious Ty Davis, and our chief of staff, Taylor Castillo. Okay, so thank you so much for coming. I want to start off by just acknowledging, as we just saw, the Femme energy is going to always step up and do what is needed for the community. So thank you. Hi. I would like to also acknowledge the land that we are on, Bobancha. I'd like to also acknowledge the land that we will be talking about, which is the Kumeyaw land. And also want to acknowledge just the labor that goes into not just this great city, from the people who flip beds for all the tourists in the hotels to, everybody who is doing dishes and cooking, and the chefs in the restaurants that, people come to and that we love to eat at, to really even actually all of the organizations that were named here are led by femmes. And as well as the place where we're at, which is the New Orleans African American Museum. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, to acknowledge my mother, Vilma. And so please bring your femme ancestors into the space. We'll just open it up. Y'all are welcome to give your people love and welcome them into the space.
The Igbo, Fulbe, the Fon, the Caraba, the Mandingo, Bambara, those from the Congolese and Angola, and those 19 plus tribes made this building, this ground, this city, and this country what it is today.
Oh, I'm supposed to switch ways. I'm already not listening. Okay. I'd like to acknowledge. I'm loud enough. I'd like to acknowledge my grandmothers who helped me become the woman and fit person that I am today. I'd like to bring veneration to my mother, who became an ancestor in 2017, but who lives through me and moves through me in everything I do. And I just want to also lift up every Black and brown femme that has nurtured, cared for, protected, took care of, combed the hair of, fed, gave water to, and gave love to every single person in this room, and all of our ancestors and future descendants who will be present on this earth.
Hello, Ashe. That definitely solves the first question, which is whose spirit do you bring to the work? But right, everybody. So I'd love to just start off a little bit by explaining why we decided to go to the border. If you have any, we'll have a little Q&A time at the end. So just, kind of jot your stuff down. So I am originally from California, and I've been here for about 10 years, have been leading this organization for the last 8 years. I'm a co-founder of the organization, and being somebody who is both Black and brown, I have a very deep, deep desire to, I think, to show people, especially ourselves, how beautiful we are, how loving we are, how powerful we are. And also growing up in LA during the, 80s, 90s, late 80s. Don't be playing me. Late 80s. There was a lot of, like I grew up in South Central, and so South Central was very Black, and by Black I mean Black American. The Great Migration to the West, right, to South Central, to Watts. And so as I was growing up in South Central, it quickly became mostly Central American, mostly Salvadorian. And so you felt it in the schools, you felt it at the corner store, you felt it, everywhere. And so I just say that to say that's sort of my, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, we got race riots at the school, And then we have these other beautiful things that are happening, right? We had the Black Panthers. LA was a very, very active chapter. But then we also had the Brown Berets, and so, which was also very, very active during the 90s and during the, we had, Bloods and the Crips, and we had, like all of the Mexican gangs, the MS, the Mara Salvatrucha, that was also very, very organized and powerful. And so I say this to say that it's always been within the context of my understanding of who I am, and to understand both love, power, violence, all of these things through the Black and brown lens. And it's within the context of our city. And so when I first moved here to New Orleans, it was like, oh, there's all these unaccompanied minors who are coming, who don't, and the schools that don't know what to do with the young people. And I was just like, oh, okay, what do you mean they don't know what to do? It's like, yeah, like who's gonna translate this stuff? Who's gonna, yeah? And I'm like, what do you mean? Just hire people, like differentiated funding, right? Like it just seems simple. Like we don't have just one other language in California. There's like, at least 100, and you're federally responsible for doing this, translating and making things accessible. And so anyway, that's sort of the context. But I think that because of our organization's commitments to families, we have really been doing a lot of work in education. We do work around immigration, and we do work around the criminal legal system. When we think about immigration, we usually don't think about Black people. And before COVID happened, I wanted to take a group of Black leaders to the border so that they can understand, like, nah, it's hella people at the border that are Black. And then, COVID happened, et cetera. And then it got real hot in the city. So it was like, why would any leader, elected officials leave what's happening here to go to the border? So anyway, a lot of stuff happened. But about 6 months ago, Ty Davis joined our team. Maybe a little less, but and I was just like, yeah, and here are my ideas, director of partnerships. I'm like, I want us to go to the border. I want us to do this Black Sanctuary campaign. I want us to and I just started spitting all these ideas, and she was like, okay, cool. And it just happened like very quickly. She's just like, okay, and so things started to move really, really quickly. We started to say, here are the people who are invited. Here's why they're invited. We sent out the invitations. Pell was the very first person to respond and say, yes, I will come, and I am honored, and I am grateful. And there are a number of folks, please raise your hand, who are in the room who decided to take the journey with us. Please stand up, actually. I know, y'all don't want to stand up, but Pellerin. And so we took folks who are working with young people, folks who are working in philanthropy, and to really understand, like, yep, immigration is a Black issue, and it's an issue that Black people are more criminalized for. So with that, that's sort of the context of why we went. We'll get into some of the details, but we started off with this Femme experience because the whole trip was given Femme, given Black Femme. Everything from the land that we were on, the Kumeyaw land, to we'll talk about the ocean. We'll talk about, day one, Sister Jimena led us, through ceremony and grounded us. Day two, Sister Daheen and Gerline led us, and that was with Haitian Bridge Alliance. Jimena is with Refugee Health Alliance. And day three was the Border Angels, and that was Sister Anna who led that experience for us. And so every day, the whole trip, whether we were at a shelter or whether we were hiking through the desert, we were being led by femmes. So thank them. I want to start off with Mama Denise, and I think the way to start off is to give us a sense of I talked about our director of remembering and the practice we're engaging in, and sort of our mind, our body, our spirit. Like, you are Reverend. Like, what happened from both the moment that we got to the airport and you prayed over us to the moment that, you asked the men to go behind the Haitian men, to when we left and when we're now here. If you can kind of just give us a little bit of, some of what you experienced, mind, body, and spirit.
Thank you. Good evening. There was so much to talk about. I prepared notes that I'm going to surrender to someone later. I had a lot to say in reflection, but it was true. I'm clear that, and I represent Congo Square Preservation Society, where we are preserving the past to strengthen the future. We drum every Sunday at 3 o'clock. We pour libations in honor of the ancestors, those indigenous to the land, those brought to the land, and then those who were free in the land and those who escaped on the land. So we always make sure that we lift that up. So the trip that we took required the same type of spiritual sensitivity. We were all willing to be there. We had no idea what to expect, but we were willing. And so you know how it is, if you have siblings and you hold your little brother's hand and you can feel them just kind of shaking, but it won't say anything. And it's kind of like all of us, we were just willing, but we weren't sure what we were going to experience. And I'm clear that in order to settle our bodies and our energy, we settle our spirit so we can settle our mind. And that's kind of what we did the whole time. I really didn't know all the things we were going to be able to do to ground ourselves in a multitude of spiritual faith and religious traditions. So I call my sister Jimena the shaman. And so we just began to have this concert or orchestrated experience. And she would get really excited and say, oh, we should do this. And I would get really excited and say, I feel we should do this. And that's kind of how we did the whole time. So from the moment we left New Orleans, the plane, when we settled in, honoring the folks on the land we arrived on, remembering to say thank you to the multitude of people that went before us. And every time we did anything, it was always surrounded by this awareness that spirit is always present. I have a saying that there is nowhere that Godness or the universal energy is not. Our opportunity is to tune into it. I'm from a really spiritual place, so I'm going to go there first. I would also say that I've lived around the world, and so migration, immigration, and all the assailants of oppression and systems are part of my network of experiences. So to make sure that I didn't get traumatized and triggered, my self-interest was also to make sure that my spirit stayed settled and centered. And when we were in the clinic and we saw mothers who were talking about how they were crossing from Brazil all the way to Mexico, that if you look at a map, that's a lot of distance to cover. And what kind of fortitude did it take to do something of that nature? And what did it add to the life, and what did it take from the life and the energy? And every time we encountered one of those, the intention was to give energy back to someone who was probably quite depleted from the experience. And you could feel that even in the circle when we got to the Haitian, Ghanaian, Brazilian camp in Tijuana, that there's a moment when our queen sister Galen, is that the right name? Gerline. When she came to us, she was in complete tears regarding a story that she had just been exposed to. And so in order for her to be settled, I felt like it was important for us to pray, and people began to stroke and calm her down. And you looked around the circle, and people had this innate like sway, like we were all in this synergistic moment, honoring the space we were in. And once we got that piece settled, then we went and listened to stories of the horrific experiences in the Panamanian jungle. And at one point, someone said, if you break a leg, that's a death sentence, because it was such a horrific experience. And to listen to moms and listen to men folk talk about, we need psychological help. So there was a moment when the two groups were kind of separate, though we were in the same circle. And I felt like it was important for us to kind of demonstrate what solidarity could look like, even if language wasn't a shared language. So then I asked the men folk to go behind the cluster of the brothers who were at the camp, just to act as a backdrop of safety while they had these difficult conversations. And when they allowed, we prayed and poured libations, and I felt compelled to hug the mom, but with her permission, because one of the things they kept saying is that people took advantage of my body without permission, and that just rang a number of bells for me, of the trauma of that and how you ever get through that. That was a big part. So then we decided we would infuse ourselves in the group to demonstrate what solidarity looked like. It's almost like we're with our ancestors. And if I were to say something, when I looked at the group, I looked at the ancient ones from which I come from. And it looked like it was just yesterday, but it was not. And we also had to discuss what it felt like to be in that camp with those families and those people and deal with our own comfort levels in America, even though racism, oppression, and the assorts are present. So we tried to debrief every time we could, because we had to honor what happens with the soul, with the psyche, with the spirit, and with our memories. And then when we finished, we went back to the clinic to hear more stories. And that was just fascinating as well, because we had to find a way to demonstrate that we could do something together. So we left the camp and we promised to advocate on behalf of the families there. We promised to put pressure and create policy. We promised to provide supplies to the families and to the leadership of that camp. Now, we are still working the details out of that, but there's not a day that goes by that we don't remember to pray and resource in some kind of way. That's just how close this impacted each and every one of us. And then we went to the border. And then at the border, now I'm a walker, I'm a roller skater, but I wasn't quite ready for the boulders and the high altitude. Okay, all right, I'm just saying. So that took some prayer too. And and there was a moment when I just decided to sing the song. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around because I was like the kids in the back of the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And they humored me, but they didn't ever tell me if I was there or not. The other thing we tried to recognize is that in our cultural groups, people need covering. So our border angels, we put them in a circle. Then we put people who were descendants or of folks that had to migrate, and we put them in a circle, and we surrounded them with some goodness and hope and healing. And then we all put ourselves in a circle and talked about the shared journey of coming through the dark to find some place of safety and hopefully freedom. They were coming from a multitude of countries where the enslaved folk came from Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia and Arkansas trying to get there. And my one hard moment was to recognize that though things have changed, there are some things that have not. People really want to be free, not just physically, but emotionally, economically, spiritually, mentally, in a whole host of ways we are free. So that's some of what happened on that particular level.
I knew Mama Denise was going to be thorough, and that's why I asked her to go first. Thank you, Mama Denise. No, we're going to get into the days, but she actually started us off in a good place. So day one, we get there, and, Ty said she wanted us there. The flight wasn't until like by 8 o'clock or 7:30. She wanted us there at 6:30, 6:45 or something. Oh, it was at 8 o'clock, and I think she said she wanted us there at 6:30. So the people were there at 6:30. We had an amazing group of people who said, I've answered the call. Yes, I will go. Yes, I will represent. And yes, I will immerse myself in this experience. And I trust you. So to be a community organization and to have all of these people from art, healing, these different backgrounds, policy, lawyers, to say, I trust you, we are ever grateful. And so, we get there, we finally get to San Diego, and the first thing we do is we get in our cars, our vans, and we go to this park. It's a state park where you can see the ocean, you can see the land, and you can see the land that is being broken up by the border. And I ain't talking about Trump's border, because his shit raggedy. Meaning this is the border that has always been, right? And then you see Border Patrol, right, on ATVs. ATVs? I see, yes. And they're just they playing all day long with our money, right? They're playing all day long, and they're just just making sure that I guess nobody's coming, and so we have ceremony there. We have a native ceremony to ask for permission for us to embark on the journey. And Jimena led us through that. Jimena is also a midwife and who is an organizer who started a clinic that mostly Haitian people from Ghana, people from Cameroon, Ethiopia, Eritrea access. But she said 90% most of the people who go there, if not 100, are Black. But of that, most of the people, about 80, 90, are Haitian. And so she, leads us through ceremony, and, we all are now present. And then we start to hear about some of the language access issues, some of the anti-Blackness, some of the, other issues that happen. And so I'd love to just ask Michelle to share with us a little bit about we're just going to stay in day one for a second. What did, I think most of the leadership that we see here in New Orleans is Black femme leadership. And so to be led in ceremony by a Native leader from that space, and to then, hear about some of the anti-Blackness, I just want you to share a little bit about some of that experience and just becoming adjusted to the space. And obviously I'm not saying that you've just share a little bit kind of what was happening in your mind and body.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm of the saying of stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. And so when I first even found out I was going on this trip, I started to prepare myself mentally and emotionally and spiritually for what I was going to experience. I do work with Black girls and non-binary young people on a daily basis. And so at the root of the misogyny that is very specific in the gender violence that happens to us is anti-Blackness. And so for that trip at the border, I think what was really important for me, and I even lifted it up, was to say, this is going to be an experience where we're going to have feelings that are extremely difficult to work through. It's going to be very uncomfortable for us. And we just have to embrace that. A part of this trip, a part of the transformation that we're seeking for ourselves, for our community, and abroad, means that we are going to be uncomfortable and we're going to have to sit with it. And so I think by accepting that, I was, able to allow myself to feel freely. Mama Denise touched on earlier about that freedom to be. And I think that freedom to be emotional is so important. And I think it's often robbed of Black and brown femmes because we're always in a position of leadership. We're always in a position of service to other people. And so often we feel empty by the time the cup makes it back around for us to take care of ourselves. And I'm not doing that life anymore. So it was really important for me to make sure that was there, but not just for myself. I can take care of myself, and because I'm well, I can check on Mama Denise, and she can check on me. I can check on Moonlight. I can check on Mary. I can make sure my people are good because I'm feeling good, right? Even if I'm crying, mascara running, it's okay because I'm allowing that emotion just to be free.
That mascara don't ever run.
In theory. But, what was so impactful for me on that first day was we spent the first day at that park on the U.S. side of the border. And we weren't able to travel to the Mexico side because they close it whenever they choose to do so with our tax money, okay? And on the Mexico side, we're hearing about how there's the ocean, there's people, there's colors, there's music. That U.S. side was raggedy. It was bleak. It was disgusting. Truly, it was just awful. And you could see they had poured concrete and cement over all this land, having these walls up for whatever reason they so choose. But it was just, and even the name, on the Mexico side, it was Friendship Park. On the U.S. side, it's just Borderland Park. Just no ingenuity, no innovation at all, which, that's white supremacy. That's what, all day. And so I just really also had to take in the environment about how, that's intentional. That space was intentionally created to instead of having that feeling of joy and comfort that you would normally get in nature, you're getting feelings of alienation, of fear, of hatred and repercussion. And so it was an extremely, heavy space to be in. But I think that, Mama Denise and Jimena did such a great job in helping us to stay rooted. Mary was coming through with the sage, making sure people were being cleansed in that moment and not letting that energy stick to them. And so that's what I felt like was really important to me. I mean, it just black and brown femmes at work always, but it didn't feel like it was coming from a place of depletion. It was like we had so much abundance and support for each other that we were able to give so freely on that first day. And it was necessary because it helped to set the tone.
Thank you. Day 2. And then we'll get into some of the issues, but I just want y'all to get a good understanding of what was happening day to day. Day 2, I think, Ty said we needed to, that's the boss right there. Ty said we need to be down at, what was it, 6:30. So, we had traveled all day. And again, we're so blessed. We're so privileged, right? There are people who had traveled 11 countries by foot, by train, any way that you can, right? You get your money stolen, your body, taken advantage of, raped. And, for us to hop on, and it's all relative, right? Freedom and all of these things, poverty. But we hopped on a plane, and yes, we did journey. And, no, it was nothing like us spending, 8 to 12 days in the jungle. So, we were up the next day super early. We went across the border and got to go through the clinic and hear from Haitian folks, and then we saw the shelter, and we get to the shelter, and it had been raining, and so it was muddy, and it was just like French, Haitian Creole, English, Spanish, right? It was a lot that was happening. And so that was just language wise. But then spiritually, it was heavy, right? It was people, and at this point, mostly men who were visible and who were sharing. We saw a few femmes, but it was mostly and so Moonlight, I'd love for you to share. After that, what did we do? Oh, yep. So we'll talk about that in a second. Yep. But then after that, I think we went to. Oh, yeah. We went to a center and had food. Then we went to the market and then went back to the hotel. So I'd love for you, Moonlight, to just share, I think, as a young person who works with other young people who are not visible, who are not seen, and whose bodies are, criminalized, violence and danger, both not seen and, super seen, right? I'd love to hear just about your experience on day 2, specifically at the Haitian camp, at the Haitian shelter, and as they were sharing their stories, some of what you were experiencing, and how you would describe you relating that work back to what you do here in New Orleans.
I'm going to try to remember all of that, but I think...
Right, really just run it. Day 2, run it.
Yeah. I also want to say on day 1, we did all of that after flying and traveling, and I know I was a little we were really there to be of service. It wasn't oh, you got here, now you get your rest day. No, it was you got here, and now we're about to go have this conversation in the park for you to go to this border. And then we're going to come back and have a talk about anti-blackness and anti-immigration. And it was okay, full day. So just, Yeah, we were already just set up to like, you are here to be of service right now. And I think that really grounded us of being like, okay, no matter what I'm feeling, I'm ready to be here and like see what we were called here to do. And I think being at the Haitian camp was very it was different than like seeing the border or different things, because imagine just dirt brown roads.
And I know I'm saying a shelter, but
yeah,
really it was tents that were made out of tarps. So yeah, please describe all of it. Get into it.
And it was also cold, surprisingly. I thought it was going to be that cold out there, but it was very cold, like to the point where like we all had to, like some of us had to go buy extra jackets, or like, and that's a privilege, right? And like we get out there and folks don't have on shoes. The babies are out there still playing and being babies, but they're out there with like no socks, no shoes on, and like in these dirt roads, and like, yeah. And everybody was like so willing to come and talk to us, even with all the circumstances and things that they have going on. Even with the language barriers, even with like them not really like knowing if they could trust us. Like, they've just come through so much, and so many of them talk about the ways they were violated, their babies were violated. Plenty of them talk about the way they violate their babies. I think that just needs to be said. And like, they take the Pampers, they like search their cavities and all these other things. So just know they're like, the babies are also enduring a lot of trauma on top of seeing their parents go through it. And like, yeah, the husbands watch their wives get SA'd, and like just so many other things. So there's so much they're enduring, and still somehow they have the resistance to live and like still want to be here. Like, that's just wild to me. And yeah, I think hearing a lot of the stories were very just, we know anti-blackness is everywhere. Black people are everywhere, and anti-blackness is everywhere, unfortunately. And yeah, just a lot of those stories still resonates with a lot of the things we might know or hear about like black folks here. And like hearing of the ways they like bodies were violated with no care, no sense, no, like nobody giving a F about them, and them just having to like make way on their own, reminded me of just like the resilience of like black and brown trans folks. And I know plenty of like brown and black trans folks that have come through that border and have had to do these same journeys, and I've never necessarily thought of those stories in those ways, because I didn't know it was this big journey and this jungle and all of that. But just like wondering how that can play into it, being like a black or brown trans or just gender divergent person, like what that would look like and how that would play out, and just not knowing those stories too. So I think that was something that was on my mind. But yeah, and at the end of the day, they really wanted us to just like help. They don't know what. They're just like, we want y'all to write a letter, maybe. Like, can y'all just help in that way? They wasn't even asking for money for this, for this. They like, we need somebody to like do something for us that are on the outside in the American side, because like, I know we're going to talk about the app later, but they just put out this app in January that like, if you're an immigrant, you have to like kind of get on this app on technology, which means you have to have updated technology, phones, blah, blah, blah. And you have to register and sign up in order to try to like get an appointment. And you have to do that for everybody in the household. So like you, the baby, blah, 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 the husband. So a lot of families wind up getting separated that way, because not all of them can get appointments. And Haitians and other black folks were finding that the app wasn't recognizing them at all, because the lighting and whatever was just not recognizing black people. So the Haitian Bridge Alliance, I think, wind up writing the folks of the app and getting that kind of fixed a bit, but it still has a lot of barriers to it. And just again, like how black people are like gonna be the ones to suffer the most from this app that's come out.
No, that's great. Thank you. Yes. So we hear that there's sort of this app in place, right, that is supposed to, and this is one of Biden's big, like reforms, right? And we'll actually have a policy and a legal panel that will sort of get more in depth on this. But yeah, people are like, listen, the app is not recognizing my features because because I'm black, you know. And so they're having to figure out all these tricks. Okay, if I get up at 4:00 in the morning and it open, you know, then there'll be less people trying to access it. And every day it's this sort of strength of God and your ancestors that has to come in you so that you can figure out you got to try again every day. You got to try again. Every day you're waking up in these tarps, you know, and this is that you have a designated space, which actually means that you're a bit safer, right, than being in the camps along the border. I think, you know, that's for folks who want to wait to actually seek asylum. And there are other people who are like, I'm tired. I'm really, really tired. I done been on this journey for months. And I'm ready to take a shower, to lay in a bed, to feel safe, to, if I do wake up, nightmares, right? That I can look around and like, okay, I'm not around people who I don't know. And it was really difficult to hear how people were violated. And people really did ask for mental health services. They didn't ask for anything else. They said they wanted like services. And one of the offerings that we had, you know, was we had Mama Denise. And, you know, spirit doesn't have a language. Yeah, so we flowing, yes, you know, and there were people who were with us the whole time who, you know, could access either English to Spanish, Spanish to Creole, right? Or also everyone who is Haitian does not speak French, right? So, or Haitian, English to Creole, or English to French to then to Creole, right? So it was a lot going on, and it was a different iteration at every time. But I'd love to just, so day 2, I want to stay there for a second. After we heard these really heavy stories of this journey that people took through the jungle. And again, there are those people who wait, but then there are those people, and we'll get into day 3, who just say, you know, like, fuck it, I'm about to just walk through the desert and find my way, or I'm able to hustle enough money to figure out how to pay a coyote to, you know, get me to the other side. But there's a tremendous amount of resilience, of strength, of mental determination, of relentlessness that you need to have. Mama Denise, I'd love for you to share what you heard in terms of spiritually from that second day, and what you saw from people who were in our group who needed to truly just release all of that, and then us going to the ocean and being able to release you know, really all of the trauma that we had heard, so that we could continue on the journey. We could continue to be, you know, a vessel that was open to both give and receive.
So for our team, there are moments when you could see team members with tears trickling down their face, and this kind of a seething, I'm going to call it just anger at what happens to humanity. And there are moments we would try to stand by them, console them, and legitimize the moment that we're in. But there's a moment when we're shaken to our core, that you're going to take a baby's diaper who has diarrhea, and then you're going to have diarrhea running down the mom's arm, and the mom is stripped naked without any protection whatsoever, the scene of that is just breathtaking and heart-wrenching, and you don't want anyone to go through that, but you see them looking around. And one of the things that happened when we kept doing spiritual work with some of these, especially on the second day, is one of the women said, I feel so much stronger because you are here. And that was just phenomenal. We prayed, we stood, we shared, we ate, we sang, we hugged, we swayed, and she said, I feel like I can do so much more now that you are here. And I think that's the miracle of the universe. It was just, it got us all at different times. So the other thing I think I would like to say is that, the way they ask people to fill out those forms on their phone, they presume you must have an Apple phone or something to fill out that form. And if you lose your place, you have to start all over again. And so people talk about, Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, the presumption is you know how to read, and you can read in English or whatever's dominant at that time. It was just unfathomable that you come out of the jungle with the phone. I mean, really? Most of us have phones that don't work on a regular now. We're right here. So that angered me significantly. I would also say that when we went to bed that night, sleep was different. And fortunately, Mary and them made sure we all had a room to ourselves, and we could do whatever processing in the privacy of our room. So whatever tears we didn't shed in the group, those tears had to go somewhere. And that was huge for each and every one of us. And it doesn't matter how big we were, how much money we had, that our hearts broke with, as Dr. King says, man's inhumanity to humankind, or paraphrasing part of that. So those were some of the things, was a phone, the fragility of each and every one of us, the fact that we all had a breaking point, and that when people saw us being human, it strengthened what they had left to do. And as now, there are moments when it took my breath away. And so we had to breathe together. Is that what you're? Yeah. So can you feel that? Yeah, just imagine that. And there was a moment when we would just look at each other. Look at each other in the eye, just trying to say, okay, we got each other. We don't know where we're going, but we had each other.
Thank you. Day 3. I'm being told we got to move along. But day 3. Day 3 was okay. Yep. People cross 11 countries. If they're coming from Africa, if they're coming from the Caribbean, and then they get to Mexico, and shit. Mexico is hella anti-black, right? Like every other country, including this country, including black countries, right? Colorism, all that. Anyway, they get to Mexico. Mexico's anti-black, and
the 2 lines.
Yeah. And you want to share?
Yeah, they had 2 lines for lighter, whiter folks, and then they had another line for black folks. And then they talked a lot about how the lighter, whiter folks got served, and then the black folks were left in the line unserved on a regular basis.
And when she means lighter, she means specifically other people from Latin America who are, crossing the border, right? And so yes, if you're a black person coming from Honduras, you can stay right where you at. If you're, say a lighter skin or a mestizo or white person coming from any other country, come on down, right? And that sounds funny, but like you could imagine the rage. And when I tell you, they were like, all of these stories that we were telling with permission, right? And they're like, yeah, we need to get this story out. We need to get these stories out. We need to get these stories out. And so really our hope is to start to engage in campaigns and for you to join us in these campaigns. I don't care what color you are, right? We need more movement work to be done around this, especially in Louisiana. Louisiana has become the number 2 state in this country around detention, which means in 2017 there was a bunch of reforms that were made through the criminal, around criminal legal systems, which meant that a lot of people got to come home. Amen. Right? Ashe. Aho. And and it also means, these rural, parishes think they don't have another way to make money. Think that the only way to make money is off our bodies, black and brown bodies. And so their strategy to keeping employed was, we are going to, okay, cool. The state ain't got no more people to lock up. Bet. Well, we just gonna sell our bed to the feds. And cool, we was getting $25 a day before for whatever black man, whatever black femme, black person was on this bed. Now we're going to get $75 because it's a private prison. It's a private bed. And we're going to get that from, at the federal level. And so we need help. That's why we did this. And day 3, with that understanding, knowing that people cross, and they're going to cross at whatever. Listen, the only thing that is guiding people is that moon. And that's if some people who ain't coming on a full moon. Other people who come in when it's pitch dark, right? You didn't even have the moon to guide you. And so day 3, we did water and supply drops. And so we hiked about 4 miles it was right. That's why I had to look like an executive director today, right? No, seriously. I'm trying to lighten the mood because it is heavy. But, imagine, we were safe, but it was 20 of us. We still ain't safe because it was black bodies, in the desert. And we had just heard all these horrific stories. And so, I will say that day 3, our, masculine brother siblings who were on the trip, it was like, I gotta carry this water. Right. And y'all gotta carry this water and hold us, right? Hold space for us as we're traveling, right? And Ty, who just had a baby Yayasita 6 months ago, she's pumping as we're hiking. She's pumping, right? And Mama Denise, we were like, Reggie, all them logs and things you moving at Lincoln Beach, Reggie, we're gonna pair you with the queen, with that queen elder, and you gonna hold her hand the entire time, right? Because we're in this canyon, right? And this canyon, there's rocks, there's all these things, we moving, and we're being led by Sister Anna, Border Angels, and we got, 1 or 2 gallons of water plus supplies. And, Ty said, bring a backpack. Didn't nobody bring a backpack. So, there ain't no handles on the water. So we rocking whatever grocery bag that they done put the water in. And right. And so on this day, we're going to start with Moonlight. On this day, Moonlight was so affectionately with love. Moonlight might have been the youngest person on the trip. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. She was the young person. Oh, Christiane. Where's Christiane? She's here. She's in the back. And so she might have been the youngest person on the trip. But anyways, we affectionately called her Khadijah that day because, I had I was like, oh, let me go shopping for the hiking trip. But Khadijah was, garbed up from like head to toe. Khadijah was, given very much Khadijah. And so Khadijah, I would love to hear, just your experience of like, cause it was that day was actually hot, but hot. The one day it was hot, but it was like wind, right? And so, our skin was getting chapped. And so would love to just hear, how you felt that you showed up, how you felt supported by other folks in that space, and, what it was like to just randomly see, oh, yeah, this water is being drank. Right? These socks that are in this bag, they are being used. This tuna can is out here. Give us a little bit about that.
Hello? Yeah. I think even on a small level, it was powerful to just know like everybody had to carry something regardless of strength or whatever it was, because every part mattered. It doesn't matter what you could carry. If it was 3 gallons of water or 2 gallons of water, baby, you need to be carrying something because we need it. So I think even on that level, it was just like we all in this together regardless. And yeah, it was, I think something about the energy switched once we started hiking, and it became more of a like collective care movement. I felt like we were very mindful of one another, very mindful of what was going on, very mindful of the snakes around, very mindful of the like tripping rocks, and mindful of bees, and mindful of like this person looks like they haven't drank water the past couple of times. We had water timers and like energy things and just snacks, and it was just like everybody was like collectively caring for each other. Like I got the snacks, I got the food, and we would run up on like people's clothes and shoes up on the like trail as we were hiking, and that was just a reminder like this is a real thing. This is true. And we are doing this in the broad daylight with privilege, knowing that like if something happens, we would be okay. And knowing they do this in the dark, in the rain, which would be the best conditions for them because most people ain't patrolling during that time. So just knowing like, wow, what a privilege that is. And we even got to a part on the trip where the person was like, I don't think we should continue going because like 3 of us fell before anybody could even get up there. So
I mean, it was big ride.
It was really big climbing. So just to say we did 4 miles and we didn't even do the full like journey, the full destination of what folks have to travel through in this desert to get to the other side of the border. So that also was very humbling. I'm like, yes, we tired and yes, we did it, but also yes, we didn't do it all and like shit.
Leave it to the young people. The young people gonna be honest. Moonlight, I'm gonna move on because Ty is pressing me. She's pressing me on this phone that we gotta go. And so the boss said we gotta go. And so because we have a couple other things. So Michelle, I want you to make it quick. To talk about the messages we were writing on the water. And what message do we want to send as New Orleans? What message do we want to send to migrants?
So before I answer my question, Ty, don't come at me, but I gotta say it. I had my backpack. I just want y'all to know. I was shoulder ready and I was backpack
Come on, shoulder ready. We're gonna get to shoulder ready too.
And I carried 2 gallons. I ain't asked none of the fellas on the trip. I got me. All right.
Well,
I appreciate it, but I got me. Some of the messages that we were writing were just, I wrote a message around live. And there were messages around keep going. We love you.
So
we're
on the
here
gallons
for you.
of water and on the supplies,
yes,
we were writing messages to essentially tell people whether they could receive it in that language or not. right? Like, we love you, we see you, keep
Yes.
going, you're almost home.
Yes, and I know, and on some of us, we asked for translation so we could write it in English and in Spanish. And I think what was extremely important for me is, and I want to lift this up because I lifted it up after the walk. We talk so often about the privilege that we had, and some of us felt guilty about going back to a hotel and laying our head down. I had to reframe that because I don't feel guilt, about white supremacy and its machinations and what it has done to our people and continues to do to our people. That's not our burden to hold. What is ours to hold is a responsibility to each other. And so that was what I felt. I felt responsibility. I felt a honor to walk through these lands and know that something I was leaving, something we take for granted on a daily basis, was so powerful and also is going to make sure someone makes it out of that alive. And so I just have to lift that up. When we talk about what messages we want to bring back, it's about that collective healing piece that Moonlight talked about. We have to be for each other and with each other. And so when I came back home, my thing was, I want to talk about the parallels between how this immigration issue affects all of us on a day-to-day basis. I'm an educator. And so I think about in terms of what's the story being told, right? What history is going to be left in that spot? To some people and to some history, we're going to be seen as troublemakers, as people who were participating in illegal activities. But I would like to believe we're on the right side of history. We're agitators. We are each other's bounty, and we are each other's harvest as well. And so no matter what danger was present, I was willing to be there. And that was the message that I had to send, that I'm here for you. And as Mama Denise, we were shoulder ready for each other and for our people. So that's the message that I feel like we have to bring back here, is that we all have a responsibility in this room, outside of this room, to show up for each other with love and grace, because we know the system isn't going to do that for us.
Hello. Come on. Thank you. Shoulder ready. Listen, this was a lot of things, and one of them was leadership development. And to be on this leadership development journey, and for Mama Denise to be getting us shoulder ready. She'll explain shoulder ready in a second. And I before she explains that, though, I want to know, what was it like to be Mama Denise, elder, queen, mother, right? Caretaker, spiritual advisor, really always generously giving. What was it like to be cared for by Reggie, who was with you, right? And so that's one question. I'm gonna give you a 2-3-parter, because she gonna hit that 2-3 part anyway. So that's the first question. What was it like to be cared for? The second one, how do we teach other people? Because I believe that meant Reggie was shoulder ready. How do we teach others to be shoulder ready? And what does that mean? And then, actually, I'm going to save my last one because I want you to close this out. But so what did it mean to be cared for? How did it feel? And then what does it mean to grow other people into being shoulder ready?
It felt sweet. You're right. Often, we carry what we have to carry, but to have someone say, I got you, and to offer to lift me up over something, that was kind of amazing and trusting. And I wasn't quite, look, let's find another way. To pick me up would be a lot. But Reggie could do it. And it wasn't just Reggie. It was like Pale. It was other people who made sure that I was surrounded by whatever I needed to get over the boulder or the sinkhole or the slippery sand. The brother that goes to Baton Rouge sometimes. I can't think of his name, but I see his face. it was just beautiful to have someone around that sees you, respectfully sees you, and makes a guarantee that you are not going to fall on my watch. And I promise you, I don't really recall having that growing up. You know, I was the protector in my household, and there are 8 siblings, but if you mess with one, I was coming for you. So just to have somebody do that for me, it was just humbling. It was sweet. I really loved the opportunity to breathe into it, and I am so grateful that those times people caught my eye to see what I needed, and I loved it. Ooh.
How do we get more people to shoulder ready and to specifically our siblings?
The concept of shoulder ready is that whatever we're supposed to do in life, we must do it with excellence, whatever it is. And so when we operate not in perfection, but in excellence, do what is ours to do, not like somebody else is supposed to do it, but just do what is ours. Teach, dance, do music, plan, feed, take pictures, do it with excellence, because someone is watching your life, and that they will be standing upon the legacy that you put in place. So you're a leader whether you realize it or not. The question is, what example will you leave behind? What legacy will you leave behind? So you can be 8 months in doing what you're supposed to do, or 80, or you could not do anything, and people will learn from something from that as well. So how do we learn it? I think it's the example that we did on the trip and that we are doing in this room. If someone needed a seat, I see people making sure they have a seat. A young man came and brought water to make sure that we had water. That if people do the thing that is theirs to do without comparison and take the risk of being on the side of what is best and whole, we would fare much better. And the other piece about being shoulder ready is to tell people what you need. I mean, tell them what you need. You can't presume people are going to read your mind. They're not going to know. They don't know your traumas either. So tell people how to touch you, tell people what you need, tell people what your boundaries are. So it's those things, I think, that make a difference in how we are able to teach one another and be with one another in those ways. And I don't know if people realize it's a big deal, but to take my hand and say, I got you on this side, take my hand and say, I got you on this side, to be behind me just in case, I got you on that side, man, that was marvelous. My femme did it, my bros did it. I had a chance to reach out my hand and help someone and do it. So the little bit that we had mattered. So that I think that's what it means to be shoulder ready, is do the thing that is yours to do with excellence and get better with it every time.
We're at the place, y'all. But this ain't it. So I need everyone to take out their phones right now. And I need everyone to go to social media, Facebook, Instagram, go to Our Voice. I always say R as in ARE, but it's OUR. That's my ESL kicking in. Hello, my so OURVOICE, and 1, just like it. Follow the page. That's easy enough, right? 2, slide into the DMs. We are just coming off of a really big staff retreat, and we are now working on this specific campaign, but also we're actually involved in a very deep membership drive. So just slide into the DMs and say, I want to be a member. If you are not a Black and brown person and do not identify as a Black and brown person, there's still a place for you in the movement. Say, I am not Black or brown, but I want to be a part of the movement. And we would love to have you as well. So that's 1, because we're getting ready to ramp up on this campaign, right? There's a lot of faces that I've never seen. And so thank you for coming. So that's that on that. And we are really engaging in trying to build both a political and a cultural home for us. And this experience that we're having, they made us think that so long as we're really, really smart and we can really, really use our mind, that's how we're going to get through it. And I promise you, it's no amount of policy, no amount of mind work that is going to free us. It's just not happening. And so we need to strengthen our bodies, right? We need to strengthen our spirits. And so, but at the end of this experience, I send the pictures to my dad. My mom passed away about 1.5 years ago, you know? And so I'm coming out of that place. And I think, you know, I appreciate you, Mama Denise, for saying we have to be clear. What do we want? I want to be free. And until I get free, I want to practice freedom. And I want to get well. I want to be healthy, right? And so I got to look like it, right? I got to feel like it. And when I don't feel like it, I have to say, yo, I don't feel like it. Like, hey, can somebody, thank you so much, my sister, Kristen. Mother's Day just passed, right? And I know my sister Carolina also had her mom pass about 1 year ago. And it was like, we got to check on each other. She's like, what's your plan? And I'm like, damn, I ain't got no plan, you know? and we have to check on each other. We have to be there for each other. That's the body and the spirit part. Where is your body going to be on that Sunday? You know, Father's Day is coming up, right? There's another set of traumas, whether your father is here or not, or, you know, celebrations and like all of these things that are happening. We have got to come back into the collective. And so welcome to the collective, right? Welcome to the collective. But so I sent my dad the pictures, right? My dad is, you know, he cool, but he's healing. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, he's like, damn, I think, in fact, I went through that same desert in 1979 when I was coming over to this country. He's from El Salvador, but his people from Guatemala. And so it's like, yeah, you know, I that's the same pathway I took. I was like, oh shit, bet. Well, let me tell the people. You know, there's I'm doing this work a little bit detached. I didn't think I was detached. But my dad is like, no, our history is in that same desert you just dropped water on, right? And again, being someone who's both black and brown, then I start hearing these songs, these chants, these hymns, right? And as someone who, you know, I talk a lot about the differences culturally between black and brown people, right? To get through that desert, you're going to have to be quiet. You're going to have to be invisible. You're going to have to put your head down and keep walking one step in front of the other. So guess what? Once you hear, what you trying to do? You trying to be out the way. I don't want you to see me. You ain't got to, don't worry about me. I'm out the way, right? Don't ask me no questions. And so you might think the demeanor is such, but there's such power in different cultures and how it presents. You don't know why it presents that way. But then, you know, when we work in the fields down in the South, it hits differently, right? There is songs, it's chants, we got to get through it, right? Hundreds of years. And so, if I may, Mama Denise, we can't have nothing turn us around. We're at an inflection point. They will continue to incarcerate our bodies. They will continue to violate our bodies. They will continue to, sometimes they look like us, right? And so those who are in power, who don't have a social critical analysis of what's happening, right? Who don't understand and don't desire freedom. And so when you become a member, we're going to figure out, how do we desire freedom together? How do we start to do, you know, get in the practice of freedom together? And so I would love for you to just close us out. And in that same song we sang in the desert, we need to sing it right here, and we need to carry that same spirit, and we need to carry all those bodies who we saw and who said, hey, yep, you can tell my story and tell it loud, because we need the people to know. And so, how do we get back to that spiritual level, and so that we can, walk out of this place and know that we are carrying the spirits and the stories of our siblings from Haiti, from Ghana, from Cameroon, and from Mexico, from Central America, and how do we continue to move in that spirit?
So I'm going to start the song. It's simple. You can keep up. I invite you to clap. We're going to stand up. We're going to empower ourselves like the people who did before us. And we're going to add verses to what makes sense to you. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking. Keep on talking, walking up freedom's way. Ain't gonna let no fear, ain't gonna let no fear turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no fear turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up freedom's way. No, ain't gonna let no ice, don't stop. Ain't gonna let no ice turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no ice turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up freedom's way.
I ain't gonna let no. Come on. Oh no, we gonna get it right. Come on. We ain't gonna let who?
Nobody.
We ain't gonna let nobody. Oh, we going back.
Okay, y'all start thinking about what you're not gonna let get in your way. Okay, think about it. Ready? We'll start nobody, but I'm gonna wait. Somebody need to holler something else out. That's how it happened. In case y'all forgot. Oh, y'all kind of young. All right. But we're gonna learn it now. Trauma. All right. Okay, ready? Now just feel this right here. Feel it in your gut, because that's what it's gonna take. Ain't gonna let no trauma turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no trauma turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up freedom's way. Ain't gonna let no sickness, ain't gonna let no sickness turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no sickness. What else? Turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on. Somebody else walk. What else? Let no migrants turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. What else? Gonna let no migrants turn me around. What else? Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking. What else? Up freedom's way. Ain't gonna let no stress turn me around. Now hug somebody. Turn me around. Turn me around. Ain't gonna let no stress turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking. Keep on. What else? Walking up freedom's way. What else? Ain't gonna let no grief turn me around. Turn me around. Turn me around. Ain't gonna let no grief turn me around. The violence gonna keep on walking, keep on. Violence walking up freedom's way. Ain't gonna let no violence turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no violence turn me around. Gonna keep on walking. Keep on talking, walking up freedom. Does that feel good? I'm going to keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up freedom. One more time. I'm going to keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up freedom's way. Amen.
Amen. Ashe aho. So you have your marching orders, which is keep on walking. Keep on what? Talking. Keep where? Walking up freedom's way. That's your marching orders, okay? I have one more ask. I do remember what it was. So if you go to either Spotify, Apple, where you catch your podcast, YouTube, if you go to Black and Brown Get Down podcast, do that now. You are free. Yep, the new episode just dropped. And so Nate, who produces the podcast, is saying a new episode just dropped. So catch it. Catch it. So that is that. Last thing that I wanted to say is please make sure you say, I want to be a member, because moving forward, our things will be member-based, right? And so I think we have another announcement.
I just wanted to let you know. Thank you, Mary. First of all, thank you for putting this together and for going to the border. I was at the border. Some of you may know me. Some of you may not know me. My name's Jose Torres-Tama. I'm an interdisciplinary troublemaker. I went to the border last year in Tijuana myself to interview Haitian immigrants and Mexican immigrant activists. All of my work is around the immigration issue. And what we should know, and we should understand, that the militarization of the border, my book is coming out in 2025. It's called Hard Living in the Big Easy, Photography of Immigrants Post-Katrina 2010 to 2019. I documented the Congress of Day Laborers for all of their public interventions. But what you should know is that this anti-immigrant hysteria right now began with 9/11. And in 9/11, that's when the fear was based not just against the Muslim people, because they picked plenty of them up. Plenty of people were picked up from Detroit and brought to what they call black ops sites. But with Fox News and all those other haters, they began the militarization of the border because of some idiotic thing by one of those commentators that Mexican immigrants and Honduran immigrants and Salvadoran immigrants were crossing illegal drugs. No, they were escaping the actual battles and the actual fear and the actual dictatorships that the United States propped up. So just be aware that this is a new episode of anti-immigrant hysteria. And for the past 10 years, since 2010, actually, I began interviewing our undocumented people in the cities of Minneapolis, Houston, D.C., New Orleans, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I have like 100 interviews of our undocumented people, many of them across that Tijuana border and the Arizona border. And we can't deny, because I'm a lifelong Democrat, but any immigrant activist will give Biden a D- basically for the atrocities that he's allowed to happen. In addition to the fact that I could never vote for the Republican Nazi Party because they're just haters, right? And we have to understand that right now, as we give praise to Wilbancha, who repaired your roofs post-Ida? Undocumented immigrants, predominantly, whether they were Honduran, on my block, they were Mexican, Guatemalan, El Salvadoran. So who repaired post-Katrina? Let's make sure we honor all of the thousands of undocumented immigrants that have repaired this city, and they will continue to do so after each devastation. So I want us to remember that right here we have a serious immigration problem, and wage theft is still very real. So that's what I do. I chronicle these issues. Thank you, my dear.
Come on, the angelic troublemaker. Let's go. Okay, thank you very much. Have a beautiful night. There's going to be we're going to have a policy one. We're going to have an art panel to talk about how art and culture move this thing forward, right? This movement forward. Shout out to the museum. Thank you to the museum. Thank you to all of our partners. Taylor is going to take a couple of pictures of y'all. So listen, grab your people and let's just take a quick group picture. Can we do that? Okay, right here.